So update 38 in Bloons TD6 is finally here, and with the patch notes getting released and the update going live, we can finally talk about it. So here are the most important and most interesting changes that happened in BTD6 in update 38. So before we head into gameplay changes, let's take a look at some stuff happening around the main menu, actually, with the first ones being the introduction of bronze and silver borders. So let me just find one of these real quick. So as you guys can see, I have a bronze border on Dark Dungeons and Sanctuary, and I have a silver border on Bloody Puddles. So what this basically means is that you get a bronze border when you collect all of the medals for easy difficulty, which as you guys can see I have on Dark Dungeons, and you get a silver border if you collect all of the medals for the medium difficulty. And I guess this is kind of a stepping stone into the gold and black ones, which already exist down the line, and it's a little bit of a recognition and a little bit of reward for players which are getting those medals. Now going back into the main menu, we have 3 new quests. So these quests are divided into 4 categories. You can sort by all of them. It's the tales, challenges, and tutorials. So we've got 3 new quests in update 38, with the first one being Scoop Stall Tale, which is a very interesting quest which consists of 3 parts. I'm not gonna be showing you guys these quests because I actually want to play through them in separate videos, but this is an interesting one that is under the category of tales, so a little bit of BTD6 lore, I guess. And then next we have 2 new quests, which are, I guess, a way for players to kind of discover you know, as they say, the strengths of the heroes, and you can find these guys in tutorials. So we've got a bunch of new quests which were about Quincy and Sada, and we got 2 new quests for Gwendolyn and Admiral Brickle. So that's very interesting, and let's now move on to the gameplay changes. So let's start with the tower that I think is kind of a darling among the BTD6 community, and it got completely destroyed a few updates ago, making it almost useless for rounds up until round 80. And Ninja Kiwi has recognized that while this nerf actually didn't do too much, so the perma spike is now quote-unquote back. I don't want to say back for sure, because they basically reverted the nerf that they did a couple of patches ago. So now the pierce and the damage are the same as they used to be, but they kept the nerf in another spot, which is the attack speed of the perma spike, which now attacks very, very slowly. So I guess there's a lot of testing left to be done with the perma spike, but I just want to say that it is no longer bad versus rounds up to 80, and then we're obviously going to test it in an actual game and see how good the new perma spike is. Now after a perma spike, there is another tower that, well, we are going to say probably goodbye in this patch, which is the Monkeyopolis, or actually the Minneapolis. Now this number, I think everyone knew that it was going to get nerfed regardless of what's happening, which was basically a $2,500 minimum that the Minneapolis had, which made it absolutely broken. It made way too much money, and now that number is changed down to $1,250. So one of these crates used to give $270, and now it gives $145. Now that number 1,250 is actually not an accident, because that's the exact cost of a base farm which we used to sacrifice in order to get the Minneapolis. So now it does not exactly seem to be worth getting, but obviously the math needs to be done and we need to do some testing on this one, so stay tuned for that one. Next up, the tag zone. Now the tag zone middle path meme, well, might not be a meme anymore, and I'm starting to think, you know, looking at these patch notes, I'm starting to think that maybe the 025 is now actually the better cross path. So what they did in this match, they removed 2 piers from the base tag zone, which goes from 4 to 2. And now this makes this middle cross path that much more important, while also increasing the rate from 25 to 35%. So basically what I guess this means is that the top path is still going to be better in doing single target damage, but it's absolutely going to crumble versus basically anything else. And I have a feeling that the middle path tag zone 025 meme is no longer going to be a meme, and I'm pretty sure that this is probably going to become the better cross path out of the 2, as ridiculous as that sounds. Now another change which is very interesting, and it's a quality of life change that's happening, is to the Super Maelstrom, and basically allowing cross pathing with the bottom path, because it was obviously the underused cross path. Now let me just use the ability and show you guys what's happening. First off, this ability is going clockwise, but, and let me just refresh the ability and show you guys what's happening. If we upgrade to the 051 and we use the ability now, the ability is going to go counterclockwise, and this is such a nice quality of life upgrade for this tower, which is basically going to allow us to do maximum damage in these tracks where the blues are just coming from the opposite direction. Now in addition to this, the even more attacks and basically the bottom path 052, and it also applies to the 042 as well, give increased duration to the Super Maelstrom and the Blade Maelstrom abilities, which I thought was actually a very interesting change, which is going to allow us for more uptime on these abilities. Now this is a change that I personally love very much, because if you guys remember, a few days back we did the $10 million challenge and we used snipers to farm. So now starting from this update, instead of having to click each supply drop ability, we can just click the elite sniper ability and that one is going to trigger every single one of them. And it makes the whole thing a lot less tedious, because now we can just get a tech bot and hook the tech bot to the elite sniper and it's basically going to trigger as many supply drops as we have on the field. So that is just an amazing quality of life change. Now I quickly want to talk about the Sticky Ninja, because this is a tower that's a community favorite for a lot of things. Not just the Sticky Ninja actually, but just the Ninja as a tower in general. And this thing got changed a little bit. It's strong as it used to be, but now some things got switched up. So for example, the Ninja Discipline upgrade used to give attack range as well, but now it only gives attack speed. And now the range has been transferred to the Seeking Shuriken upgrade, which is basically all the same, it's just transferred to a different one. But what's more important for us, I believe, especially for people that are playing boss battles, is the Sticky Bomb, which used to give a 50% range extra on the sticky projectiles. Now you couldn't see that bonus projectile range in here in the circle, so the circle was the same, but the projectiles were getting thrown out from much farther basically. And what's happening now is that the Moab class Bloon needs to be in this range of the Ninja for it to get affected. And this is a problem because, well, in boss runs we're probably going to have to be rebuying and reselling this thing a couple of times now. Now one of the more interesting changes that happened is that the tornadoes from the Druid of the Storm are now homing, which means that they follow the Bloons. Now I'm not sure how much of an impactful change this is going to be, but what it does for sure is it makes us not worry about the Druid placement actually, because previously we wanted to have it in a straight line, but now that's not important. So it surely looks interesting to try out, that's for sure. So let me just show you guys how it looks. And that tornado just starts going to the left side immediately, which is just such a nice quality of life change when you think about it. It might make this tower a little bit more viable than it is right now, but how impactful is it going to be actually in a game, I'm not sure. And while talking about the Druid, another change is that the Superstorm is now cheaper by $5,000, so obviously affording this in Chimps mode is going to be that much easier, and it's going to be super fun trying it out. And let's off with one more Druid change, which sounds very interesting, especially for people that like farming like myself. So first off, the amount of money generated for one Druid goes from $120 to $130 per farm. Now this is about an 8% increase, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I guess when you buy a couple of Druids and when you click the ability a lot of times, this might start adding up. Now the second thing that they added for this guy is that now they increase the damage of the Vines. So the Vines used to do 1 damage and now they do 2. Yeah, look at this. So I just sent 99 ceramics, and basically this Druid, I don't want to say it's holding them off by itself, but I think that this +1 damage that they gave to this Druid is actually kind of impactful. It's actually kind of nice. So I guess this is going to further enhance the farming capabilities and the defensive capabilities of the Melee Druid, and this is something that we're 100% going to be trying out in a game. So those were the more interesting changes happening in update 38. Of course, a lot more things happened, and we're going to be trying every single one of them. So subscribe to catch those videos. Thanks for watching this one, and I will see you guys in the next one.